There are videos that I don't really enjoy making, and this is definitely one of them. I don't like to spread FUD, so fear, uncertainty, and doubts, but we have to look the truth in the eye. And the truth is shown in this chart. This is Tether, USDT, the largest stablecoin. We all know about the depegging of UST, right? But UST was relatively small in the grand scheme of things. It was around 1% of all of crypto's market cap. Still significant and obviously still having an impact on Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin fell below 30K. But if this depegs, if Tether depegs, we will see something completely different. The Tether dominance, or the measure of how much percent of all of crypto is in Tether, has been rising. It started out relatively small, right? In June 2018, it was less than 1%. Now it is 7% of all of crypto is in Tether. Now, why is this starting to depeg? Could this revert? Of course it could, right? This was a way smaller depegging event than with UST, but with UST, it also started this way. So we have to take this seriously. This is not yet at $1. There are several reasons why this is probably depegging right now. The first reason is it's very likely, at least that's my opinion, it's very likely that there will be more regulation coming, especially around stablecoins. Stablecoins and DeFi in general was always looked at with a suspicious eye by the governments. Now that UST is imploding and has taken away so many billions of investors' money, I think it's more than reasonable to assume that regulation will come and that the weaker stablecoins might get a hard time. Now, how could this look like in practice? Maybe the centralized exchanges, they won't be allowed anymore to deal with Tether. Why specifically Tether and not, let's say, USDC or DAI? That's because Tether claims things that they couldn't yet back up, right? There are funny numbers on the website, but what is Tether really backed by? It's mainly commercial paper. And nobody knows what that commercial paper is. There were already rumors that some of that commercial paper might have been Evergrande, right? The large property developer in China that then subsequently collapsed. It might even just be promises by the centralized exchanges, right? Maybe the centralized exchanges just say, okay, here is a debt paper, please give us some Tether. And maybe that's the reason why there's so much adoption of Tether. When you look outside of the centralized exchanges, right? And you just look at DeFi, at pure DeFi. Most applications, they prefer to pool their token with USDC, for example, because it is safer. But once you trade on centralized exchanges, the game changes. Tether is way more important. And why is that? Well, we can have all kinds of different conspiracy theories, right? But probably in some form or another, the centralized exchanges do get a better deal converting US dollars into Tether than into something else. And that's probably the main fundamental reason why regulators are going to ask more and more questions. At least that's my take on this. The problem though is if Tether really definitely depegs like UST did, then this will have all kinds of knock-on effects. Centralized exchanges might get bust. We might relive another Mt. Gox. This will imply all kinds of deleveraging events, which then obviously leads to the entire crypto market imploding and Bitcoin going really, really low. So I really don't want this to happen. Nobody wants this to happen. And we have seen larger fluctuations in the past, but at that time, Tether was way, way smaller. And that's the same problem with UST. UST was able to regain its peg because it was way smaller in the early days. Then once it reached a certain size, then you need so much capital to drive the price back up that you can't really find anybody that can support this. Tether is way, way larger. It's roughly 7 to 8 times larger than UST. Now, what do I do in this situation? There's only so much protection you can do, right? Of course, you could entirely exit everything and be super cautious and say, okay, I've had enough. I'm just staying in fiat now. But it's just one scenario that could play out that probably also has a relatively low likelihood. But the problem is in the case that this does play out, the ramifications are massive. And so what I'm doing is I'm obviously not holding any Tether coins, right? I rather hold DAI or USDC. I guess that's relatively speaking at least somewhat safer. I'm also, in order to get a bit of a protection, borrowing some Tether. So I've deposited collateral on a borrowing and lending platform such as Aave, for example. And then I've borrowed Tether against this and I've bought another stable coin with those proceeds. So I've swapped. I'm effectively short Tether. Now this does cost a little bit, right? You've got maybe 1 or 2% net financing costs from this, right? You receive less in return from depositing that other stablecoin than you pay for borrowing Tether, but the delta isn't that much. It's maybe 2 or 3% per annum. But I think given this chart here and given the regulatory influence that might now hit the crypto space after this entire UST implosion, I think it's better to be too cautious and rather be an early mover than too confident. You really never know, and the probability of a Depeg is probably now higher than 2%. Maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 15%. It's probably not higher than 50%. So I don't think there's reason to be completely alarmist about the current situation, but still it does make sense to be at least a little bit hedged, to not completely entirely eradicate the portfolio. And that's what I'm doing with that Tether short. Now, if you want to do the same and you're not yet sure how to actually set something like this up, I have done a tutorial video here for the premium members. So the Bitcoin strategy premium membership, it is open for subscription. The link to that is in the video description. Of course, I also continue to publish free videos here on YouTube. So if you haven't yet subscribed, feel free to do so. If you're wondering whether or not it makes sense now to buy Luna, since Luna has come down that much already, then feel free to check out this video over here. There's a lot of value over there. It's a very popular video. So hope to see you in that video, and thanks for watching this one. Bye bye.